So,
Yay.
ladies and gentlemen, I am beyond honored and excited to have Sir Paxton Dickerson on the Eternal Strength podcast. And I'll tell you, Mr. Dickerson, there's been a few times here recently, and I don't know what it is with the universe, but I've just started to kind of think like, okay, who would I really want to talk to? And you were somebody that I'd watched your videos for probably the last year and a half. And I was like, man, I'm gonna reach out. And I saw you recently on Dope Sick USA.
Yes.
And so you came on that, and I said, okay, so he must know. I had Matt Camerano on, Mohawk Matt, and I was like, man, he must know the dude that kind of runs Dope Sick or hang with that crew. So let me just reach to him directly. And lo and behold, you came back and were like, I'd be honored to come on. And I was like, no freaking way do I get to talk to Paxton. So I'm honored. I'd love for you to give maybe a little bit of an intro about yourself, and then we can dive in and we can talk the human psyche, soul, psychology, spirit world, spirit realm, esoteric, mythopoetical, whatever we need to.
Doc, I love it.
Awesome.
Oh my goodness. You sound like the back of my head. Yeah. Shit. Well, so when I was younger, here's an amazing thing. So when I was younger, my father was very geopolitical, not like American politics, but world politics. You know, I grew up with the president of Rwanda in my living room.
Wow.
You know, that kind of stuff. And his younger brother, my youngest uncle on that side, is the historiographer for all the African Methodist Episcopal churches on the face of the planet.
Wow.
So needless to say, they're very religious in that AME. And I have one older brother. But here's the thing, my father, I don't know where he got this from, but my father knew at a very young age, me being 6, that I wasn't AME. He just knew. He said, this kid, that's not him. And he started feeding me all this shit. You know, he started feeding me pathology, and I was studying sacred geometry when I was 6.
Wow.
And, you know, just all this esoteric, you know, I was upstairs writing spells and being weird. And I went to visit my grandparents in Philly, and they, you know, they called him up. They said, Charles, your son, you know, has all this stuff and books and weird things and stuff. And he said, you leave him alone. He's doing him. And so I really have to attribute that to my father, because I don't know if I could do that. You know,
right,
I have certain stances on certain things. And I don't know if my daughters could, you know, say, Dad, I totally disagree with that. I'm the polarity opposite way. And me go, you know what? Yeah. That. Encourage it, you know?
Right. What do you think it was about your dad? Like, do you think he just saw an essence and an energy in you and knew some type of intuitive sense where he was like, I have to let him open these portals?
That's exactly, I couldn't have phrased it any better. That's
Awesome.
Exactly what I would guess was going on through his mind. And never once did he waver in his belief. So that's the cool thing. It's not like he was like, I don't really believe this, so I don't want you either. He was devout AME, but just was like, you know, my son is on some other shit. So now the interesting part is, you know, and I to whatever extent viewers believe or know or understand or comprehend, you know, I found some pretty amazing abilities, you know, things that, like I tell my clients today, if I told you everything I know and showed you everything I know without prep, you would get scared or attack me. You know what I mean? Like, there's some interesting stuff going on in the universe. But you don't teach a young man in upstate New York stuff like that without me trying to get laid with it, you know, take over the world, pinky than the brain. So I found, of course, drugs and alcohol and crime. I was never in a gang, but suffice to say, I was in a group of people who owned liquor stores and clubs.
Right.
You know,
Right. Their own
and
gang of
so,
sorts. Yeah.
right. And so the way low vibrations go, it's you imitate what is good, you fall short. You imitate what is evil, you always go beyond the example set. So I went beyond the example set. The people I looked up to started backing away from me, like, dude, you're fucking wild. And then, of course, what allowed me to do that also faded away. So now I'm just in it. And I've forgotten, lost all that beginning foundation. And, you know, jump quick start to 2001, I found myself in a treatment center, Oasis Treatment Center, 222 Westfall Road, Anaheim, California, 92805. And, you know, and then my head popped on my ass and I'm like, what the hell happened? Yeah. You know, I missed the last freaking 20 years. And then once you start any kind of process of 12 steps or shadow work or introspection or honing character, personality, then I started remembering these pieces of me that I left behind. And I'm like, yo, hold on.
Yeah.
Whoa. And so then it came back. And then I, you know, now with a clear mind and a more mature approach and having gone through my own organic alchemy, I, you know, hit the ground running again.
Yeah.
You know, with different things.
How old were you at the time when you were at the treatment center?
I went into treatment May 2nd, 2001, and I was 26.
Okay.
I'm now 48.
Brother, I'm your words, organic alchemy, dark night of the soul. And I love what you just said, where you said, listen, any entry point, name it what you will. It could be 12 step. It could be shadow work. It could be any program or trajectory that begins to allow you as a human being to reflect upon your internal self and say, who am I? What is my purpose? What is my mission? Let me hold the mirror up to self. It's beautiful. And so at 26, I can see your 6-year-old self kind of being like, hey, remember me and what we were studying and what fed our
dude, where'd you go? What the fuck, man? You know?
So walk me through. So 26, you have this cathartic internal work that you start to do. And then what's that process look like? Did you know where to pour the energy, or was it just back to basics with studying and universe and alignment?
So I almost call this place the X-Men Mansion. And I use a lot of X-Men analogies, maybe we'll get to later, but you know, the owner of the treatment center, 70-year-old Polish, dyslexic, alcoholic, not racist, but, you know, the prejudice that comes from being 74 years old. Right. I mean, what do you want from the guy? And, you know, he dressed like a evangelist, you know, bleached blonde hair, just the whole 9 yards. And he's a genius, probably a Mr. Magoo genius, because I don't think he planned it. But I started working for him, and the program was not. It was growing on me slowly like a rash. I had absolutely no intentions upon being sober whatsoever, none.
Right.
But it just grew on me, and I am a diagnosed sociopath, and not just addiction given. You know, I was diagnosed when I was younger, young adult in sobriety, and then in 10 years of sobriety. That's the way my mind works. And so I can quickly assess what's advantageous for me. It's not like I'm going to sign in, but hey, I got a pillow and a job, and you guys are feeding me and gets people off my back. What's the problem?
Right.
I can always fuck off later. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Right. Right.
And that was my thought. I can fuck off later. Let me build some more to fuck off.
Yeah, right, right. Let me get my structure. Let me utilize these people like chess pieces, utilize the program, and then I can get to where I need to go and instill my will upon it when I need to.
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly. But in growing there, working and stuff like that, then it caught hold, and I started gathering momentum, and I went from house manager, and I always tell people, I was like, I did not want to stay there that long, and they made me a house manager, and I'm like, are you guys idiots? Like, I just told you my get down. What the fuck are you guys doing? But like, if I gave you a briefcase full of money, you wouldn't give it back, but you would wonder who's looking for it. That's what I was doing. I was just I thought it was entrapment. I thought they were going to go, ha ha.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right. Yeah.
Are you in the med cabinet? Ha ha.
Right.
So I went from house manager to detox tech to head of detox to intern counselor to clinical supervisor to executive director. So then I run the joint, which is like letting Joker run Arkham. That's like Charles Manson being on the parole board. Like, what the fuck were they thinking?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, once again, big packs.
Right.
Fucking wheels and deals. Once again, I do my deal. But but recovery was growing on me, and the skill, back to alchemy, the skill that I've always had, the gift of gab, spells, if you will, micro expression reading, mentalism, all these little tricks of the trade that got me, that allowed me to not do time in jail, except for under the wrong name, allowed me to avoid getting beat up by the Mongols because I was drunk as hell and I was insulting the, just all these. Right. And I realized, I can use this to help people. And I immediately know how to hurt people, so that I know how to help them. I know where people's insecurities are, like a fucking predator. So then if I have a different motive,
and
I have a gift of gab, and I realize people listen to me, and one of my greatest manipulation tools was allegory, analogy, metaphor.
Yeah.
Because then you can never be wrong. It's like, right. Oh, Doc, I owe you money. Well, it's like a horse. You know what I mean?
That's all. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, it's the ability to manipulate perceptual cognitive framework. So I know you're thinking about it like this, but if I can help you see a different way to conceptualize, maybe you can understand it this way. Right. Right.
Right. Exactly. I mean, geez, Doc, of course. I marvel at you. I'm trying to get that.
But I want to dive in because I'm really curious, and we'll get to it in talking about diagnoses and labels, because I consider myself a critical and anti-authoritarian psychologist. And so I'm very, very skeptical of the field of psychology and psychiatry to begin with, the damage that it's done, its over pathologization, how it treats and harms people, dehumanizes people, takes away their ability to love and care for themselves, and is really just afraid of different people, afraid of people that think differently, that behave differently, that operate. And that's where we can start talking about spirituality. But I love where you're laying out like this internal place that you got to, where you were like, look, I got this tool, this incredibly powerful tool of verbiage, of language, of articulation, right? And it's done all these things in the material realm to help me not experience pain or duck this or manipulate this. What would happen if I took that tool and I utilized it to help others grow. And I'll tell you, Paxton, brother, one of the most beautiful videos you've ever done. And I consume all types of stuff, man. So I'm reading and journals, research articles, psychology, films, study, philosophy, and I come across you do these 4 TikTok videos in a row where you talk about the light workers, the shadow workers, the spiritual warfare journey, and you do this breakdown, brother. You have no idea how many times I've downloaded all 5 of those, sent them in a row to different people, because I've never seen somebody so poignantly and clearly articulate the entirety of human existence and what we're doing here in spiritual warfare and the different groups of people and what they're attempting to do. I mean, it gives me chills, man. It was freaking awesome. And I don't want you to have to go back through all of it. I can put links to everything, but I'm grateful that wherever you went in your journey, you shifted and you took this gift and this tool and said, I want to bring this esoteric knowledge and wisdom and intuitive sense and gift it to other people so they can begin this study.
You know what? It's like, if I may, you're like freaking Wolverine and I'm like Gambit, because it's like, obviously we're not the same, but Doc, yeah, it's that's what I literally have created my dharma, my purpose in not debunking, but I won an award for the Mental Health Association, basically just telling them, I'm obviously not debunking all psychology and psychiatric fields, but I just like correcting or adding my 2 cents on their little things. And it's like, yes, we're not broken. We're not broken. There's a tribe in, I believe, Africa, and it's like they don't have a word for mental illness. If you're hyper, you're the hyper guy. If you talk to things that aren't there, you're the talk to things that aren't there guy.
Right. There's an integration. Right. There's an integration.
The X-Men. Yeah. Professor X thought he was schizophrenic because he was hearing voices, but he realized, oh, these are freaking. And I'm not saying schizophrenia isn't a real thing, but it's like, it is what it is. So I'm going to spend the rest of my life thinking I'm a fucking defaulty broken face, or I'm going to practice Ignaki and fucking or Kintsugi and put myself back together with some gold and fucking fuck a motherfucker.
Paxton, I don't know how much you've studied or looked at the anti-psychiatry movement of the 60s and 70s, and R.D. Laing, yes, Thomas Saz. And again, like you said, they're not saying that it doesn't exist, but what they're saying is the words, the spells that we give to it impact how people feel about themselves, how people behave, and how they are in the world. And when we look at it culturally, it's how do we accept our brothers and our sisters and their uniqueness and hold them and not rip them out of society, be with them and respect them, and then help them integrate whatever those things are, whatever it may be. OCD, ADD, addiction, bipolar, mood disorders, personality disorders. But I think where the American Psychological Association and pathology has shifted is it has gone to a negative. It's gone to you are broken, you are diseased, you are mentally ill, and the only way to fix you is for you to get rid of this part of you. And as you and I know, in Jungian integration work, individuation, wholeness, you don't get rid of anything. It would be like taking a stick and saying, get rid of the right part of this stick. You keep breaking, and no matter how small you get, there's a right side. There's no eradicating, getting rid of. So how do we integrate
Doc, Doc, that's why I don't have a fucking goatee right now. It used to go like this, and I went, and then I got a Hitler in the middle, and I shaved off. Now I got a freaking Puerto Rican strap. It's like, I should have a nice big goatee, but nope, just fucking around.
I decided I was trimming this for a while, man, and then I noticed that like the more I play with symmetry, I was like, man, it's never gonna happen. I'm just letting it go. I'm gonna have one side coming down here. I'm just gonna be unsymmetrical, man.
Just
Yeah.
let it go.
Yep. So
You know,
let
yeah.
me ask you, and Paxton, on that note, man, you're one of the few people that's made me want to wear a suit every day. For a long time, brother, I was like, look, man, I'm coming in rogue. I work with these kids. I pride myself on being a pretty on the fringes and how I look, being heavily tattooed, but also being a psychologist and what that's done for people's perception and debunking certain things and inviting open, beautiful conversations about it. But your style, brother, come on, man. Every time you're looking so. I'm sitting here talking to you, and I'm like, damn, we're gonna have to talk after this. I'm gonna have to get some tips on how you style everything, man.
My tailor likes to make me look good, or
Awesome.
so it seems.
Yeah. So
no, but it's perfect though. Again, it's you are a doctor, well educated, well versed, well studied, and that's your approach. I am not well, I shouldn't say I'm not well educated, but I have no letters behind my name, and I'm
the
fairly
standard
unorthodox.
traditional certifications and licensure is not the avenue you've taken, but I am here to state and name that I've met many with many letters, with many trainings and certifications that have no true study and holistic knowledge. And then I met many with no standard education, with brilliance and study. So yes.
And I am in Orange County, and I, for whatever that's worth, I'm in Orange County, California, and I'm a young looking, I tell people if you act the way I act, you have to dress up.
Well,
just to tone everything else down.
I love that, and we can talk about the racial stuff too, because I think about that a lot. Like I'm heavily tattooed. I have 3 gold permanent teeth, and I think some of that is privilege. As a white Caucasian male in a high affluent area, here I am, the ability to do that. Whereas I think some Black individuals would have way more projection, judgment in terms of how they dress. And I think a lot about Franz Fanon, Black Skin, White Mask, and his writing,
right,
and what he does. And so it really is a think exploration of recognizing there's different projections from all ends. And, it's very important to pay attention to. And I think any individual should just take empowerment of it. Know your audience.
Obviously not this fucking Prince shirt and a shiny silver, but I've been, a nice navy suit, boopy doopy doo, toned it down. And, when I get people, oh my God, what do you do? And in my head, I hear, why are you wearing that suit? And they say, I bought a new car one time. They said, do you sell cars? I'm like, no. Is there a party? Oh my God, you're going out. I'm like, no, I don't party. And, well, I said, I own a consulting firm. And, well, sports? I'm like, no. Music? I'm like, no. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, if I was a, Caucasian with pepper hair, you would just assume I have a job that warrants a suit, like a banker or a lawyer. But, right. And what's worse is I get that from other people of color more than anybody.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, guys,
I know.
Come on.
I think, I try and have as much empathy as I can, because I think it's a cultural conditioning.
It
for
is.
years
It is.
and years and years. And it's by the masses, and it really does. That's where I'm grateful for any individuals that fight to challenge whatever those mass indoctrination concepts are. Right. And one of my favorite quotes is, all generalizations are dangerous, even the one I just said. You know, it's like generalizations, man. What are we doing when we generalize, when we say all men, all women, all this? It's like, wake up, man. If you're generalizing, you're missing something. You're not looking at nuance and complexity and true phenomenological lived experience and how it shows up.
Doc, that's fire.
Cool.
That might be a video I make today on TikTok. Hell yeah.
That's a good
dope.
That one's one of my favorites. All generalizations are dangerous, even that one. And then my other that I like is 96.7% of all statistics are full of shit.
Yeah, I like that one. I love that one. If I told you once, I've told you a million times. Stop exaggerating.
Yeah. yes. Those are great, man. Yeah.
I even, in my lectures, I love doing that. I did a lecture in front of like 955 doctors and psychiatrists. And, here I am on stage, and I'm fucking doing my deal. And of course, I'm like, well, 65% of people. And I'm like, I just made that shit up. What fucking poll did I just quote? Like, what the fuck?
But I guarantee you this, if you had a team of politically driven, professional academics behind you, they'd go gather the right research that swayed it the right way and said, sure, here's 5 different articles that support Mr. Dickerson's comment that 65% of people do this. And that's why 9 out of 10 of every dentist chooses Colgate toothpaste. Like, follow the money, man, and the sales and how it's being manipulated. And don't think that it's not in science and academia and publishing and peer-reviewed journal articles. You can find any article to say anything you want.
Yeah.
And sway it how you want. So here's what I'd love to know.
Best hamburgers ever since 1927.
yeah. So tell me this. I would love to know a little bit more about what you're currently working on. Like, I want to know current projects, your focus, because I just want to share your work with people. And I think one of the things I want to name is you've taken to TikTok more than Instagram, which I think is great. I saw a lot of people very adverse to TikTok, demeaning it. It's just for children. It's this or that. I said, look, man, it's however you curate your feed. Because I'll get on TikTok and within 3 minutes, I'm going to have knowledge about the spirit realm, spirit world, esoteric, Jungian psychology, humanistic thought. It's like it starts to watch in those algorithms. So I'm grateful I found you, but I'd love to just have a day in the life of where your time and energy is focused right now.
Sure. Okay. So, I told a colleague of mine way back, Stacy, she does admissions for like everything out here. And she said, Paxton, you need to get on TikTok. And I said, what the fuck are you talking? And one, I don't like doing things. Like, I really don't. As soon as it has like 4 or 5 fucking steps to it, I'm over it. And she's like, TikTok. I'm like, I don't know, whatever. And she goes, no, Paxton, look up TikTok. And so I go on TikTok and, there's girls shaking their things and dogs falling downstairs. And I said, Stacey, I'm not doing this shit. What are you, nuts? And she goes, no, there's a really big, niche, because my lectures are like 2 hours long and I plant seeds, and much like a comedian, I wrap back around and visit it. And I need a certain setting to be able to do it right the way I want to. And at the time it was like 15 seconds or 30 seconds. And I'm like,
yes,
how do I, and she goes, break it up, just do little snippets.
Yeah.
And then I love the fact that I can put music behind it. Honestly, I would have more followers if I didn't put my music behind it, but I refuse. I like the fact I can put some old school gangstar behind my freaking video about whatever the hell.
And Paxton, it brings the feeling, it brings the heart out. I watch a video because then you're curating at that point. When you have talking with the right music behind it, with the right timing, with the right inflection, man, that's an arrow to somebody's heart, brother. Yeah, absolutely.
And I love that. So, okay, but to answer your question, so I work in the field, so I contract myself out to treatment centers. And I was one of the first outside contractors before they had Rock to Recovery and yoga teachers. And they said, Paxton, no one's going to hire you to do groups because they already pay people to do the groups. They're just going to get the people, whatever counselors. And I said, well, so I really branded myself bringing something that they weren't going to get. So I stay away from some of my basic lectures like 12 steps, relapse prevention, blah, blah, blah. And I go in there and I talk about fucking hermetic law, dharma, fucking, as much as I can, Freemasonry or,
Absolutely.
witchcraft, leaving out certain pronouns, different stuff, mythology, X-Men, whatever. And I really, and the kids, they love it because there's a certain allure, it's like, ooh, we're not talking about the basic bullshit, you know?
Right.
And I also go in there and I tell them, to be fair, I say, one, this treatment center does love you because I'm not cheap. And they can get a monkey to come in here and read the big book with you and charge about the same.
Right.
But then I also will debunk whether I know it or not. I'll say, I don't give a fuck what they tell you. It's like this, it's like this, it's like this. But do what they tell you. I kind of play
you're in this space, but I'm not going to cater to anything but giving you truth.
Right.
Beautiful.
Right. And so I do a lot of those, and that's what really pays the bills. I snuck onto the National KDAC board, even though I don't have a KDAC. I don't know how I did that. So I'm on their board, and I blah, 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 talky talk. I do a lot of TikTok videos, of course. I have a lot of outside clients, people, especially via TikTok, former clients who want some more from me, but don't want to relapse just to get it. Different businesses and colleges, churches and mosques and temples. I go in there and I speak. I really keep it boiled down to the truth. And they agree, they love it. And then I love the cognitive dissonance, because once they find out that I am not whatever they are, they're like, okay, fuck, why did I agree with you? You know what I mean? Like,
you're right.
What? No. And I leave out pronouns, and I don't fucking go in there to offend people, of course. I'm not going to be like, hey, Goetia law and fucking Goff says this,
Right.
But, and then, and then I'm a Freemason, of course. So I do Freemasonry, and that's a lot of charity and trying to help the community and the craft and stuff like that. And then Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, I'm obviously a member, lifetime member of them. Although I don't go to a lot of meetings anymore. More so, I just kind of pop my head in and spot check. Every once in a while, I will. My whole thought, Bill Wilson never really meant for the 12 steps to be the end all. He meant it to be the beginning, the prerequisite.
Yeah.
And that's why I believe that 11 and 12 step are so vague, because he was like, all right, now fuck off,
Yeah.
Keep
now,
on going.
Use this as a trajectory for your further development and growth. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't sit in the back of a room being the king of the room and shit and rah, 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 I'm the old timer. And, and it's strange because, because I'm my frame and my demeanor, I do appear young. And so a lot of people don't think I'm an old timer. Because I guess, almost 23 years, I guess I am an old timer. But so I sit in there and I'll tell the old men, with the rah, rah, hey, actually, I remember you when you came in. Why don't you pipe that shit down a little bit and let these dudes, make some mistakes and let them, whatever it is, like easy.
Yeah.
So, but, I do that. I do have 2 daughters. I get them sometimes on the weekends. they're older now, so I do my best to be good with my ex-wife. And when they were little, it was definitely my time, her time, my time, her time. But now we both get shafted because they're like, we want to go to with I'm like, well,
Mine are 9 and 6, man. I'm a father
right.
of 2 little daughters, and they're 9 years old, 6 years old. So I'm on the journey. And
Yep.
and one
13
day,
and 10.
okay. Yep. Yep. And so it's happened so quick, man. I'm watching it literally like with my 6-year-old. It's happening in real time.
Right. Right.
Paxton, but you haven't written any books?
I have not. And here's the
Brother,
problem.
I'm telling you. I mean, I'm sure several people have told you that you
They have. And and maybe you'll help me with this. Not maybe you will. Because a lot of it is in my visual, my visual and audio approach. But in book form, I've debated whether just to spit shit out and to have it. I forgot what book it was, but it was just kind of like Marcus Aurelius's Meditations.
Yes.
Just to spit out random ideas, and who cares if they overlap. I've thought about that. I've thought about making a fictitious setting where someone would play, kind of like Ishmael by
Right.
Daniel Quinn. Like someone would play me and another creature would play the student, and there'd be a conversation back and forth and add some bullshit. And then I've also thought of this, I can't remember what book it was, but it's a popular book where it's almost like a picture book, and they have just scribbled around pictures different lessons.
Yeah.
So I can't figure out which one to do.
You got to do them all.
Then of course I've done none.
Well, and I think you have beyond the capacity to do them all at the point that makes sense and it's right. But even Ram Dass's book, Remember, Be Here Now, that was just pages that you could open.
That's the book I was talking about. Thank you.
Exactly. And it's got a statement and talks about karma and dharma and spirituality and spirit realm and the human trip, and it's so beautiful because it's not linear, and you pick it up and you open it up and it's got these golden nuggets of knowledge, but it's beautiful.
Right. And and this is where maybe, and this is my own garbage, but maybe where my old skill set comes in, because if I put it in writing, I always imagine having to defend my thoughts. And if I can do it verbally, I'll fucking be wrong as fucking rain and I can still make it sound right. But if you put it on paper,
right.
I can't go, well, what I meant was, see,
right.
It's like a horse.
That's awesome. Paxton, let me ask you, man. So speaking about Freemasonry,
yes,
it's probably one of, if not the most stigmatized, misinterpreted, judged, critiqued, feared, loathed, all these different things. I'll tell you my own journey, man. So my dad's dad, my paternal grandfather, was a 33rd degree Freemason and had a ring.
right.
Never spoke about it to my father, to me. I remember being at a dinner one time and asking him about the ring, never said anything about it. And so I don't know much, but I do know that the figures that I've met and talked to who have been part of the Masons have been some of the most holistic, kind, loving, philanthropic, knowledgeable. So I'd love for you to just talk about whatever you feel comfortable, your journey.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I always, I'm 5'9", and to a 6'7" guy, I'm short. To a 5-foot person, I'm tall. And they can argue till they're fucking blue in the face, but the fact is, I am 5'9", and no one can argue with that. So divine math. It's the only facts. Math, you go anywhere in this country and that's gonna, go anywhere in this world, that's the one language everyone's gonna understand, math. Right. 1 + 1 = 2, no matter what. Not, it's different in my culture, or I grew up there. No, fucker, 2 +, it's 1 + 1.
Right.
And one of the two ancient professions that had to be versed in the language of math were the Freemasons and the Carpenters.
Okay.
And so that's where it begins. It's just this group of people that were tolerant of all belief systems and really don't care about, because, okay, the first misconception is that we're a cult. So a cult, everyone believes the same thing and they practice some form of salvation. You're going to get something. You're going to wake up on the planet, whatever the fuck, or the aliens are going to come down and get you, or you're going to fucking breathe the lands of the afterlife, some shit. And what people don't understand is, we don't all believe anything, and we don't really give a fuck where you go. Each individual might, but as a group,
as a collective, there's not a unanimous.
No, we just worry about what you do while you're here. We just want to make you a better person here and help motherfuckers here, regardless of what that means for you later. And so that bothers a lot of people because they can't accept that. And the secret part, of course, bothers everybody. And without spilling the beans, the only real secrets we have is how to be a Mason. The secret shit is really just the employee code to get into Langley. That's the big secret.
Right.
And
I think in a world though where privacy and any type of secrecy is now being extremely eradicated on every level, it becomes more sacred. It becomes sacred to have something that you don't speak about to everyone, everywhere, all the time.
Right. Yes. And I always tell people, there's a difference between private and secret. It's like, if I go to the bathroom right now, well, that's not a secret. I told you where I'm going, but it is private. You can't come. You know what I mean? Right. And it's really an experience. So I couldn't even, if you told a person a secret, it'd be no use anyway, because what the fuck would you do it? But so and then it gives off the impression of a church because it's a lodge, and it's just
historical, a lineage, practice, a sacred ritual, and people just associate that with one thing. Yeah.
And we get a couple of different sides. We get Masons were into slavery, and it's like, well, they were on both sides, but so were athletes, so were plumbers, so were farmers, and that's just a part of our history. You just got to deal with it. That's a whole nother topic. Or we get we're Luciferians, which of course was a misquote based on some slander. And I always tell people, I know some Luciferians, which are really nice people.
Yeah.
And by no means do we claim them, and no means do they claim us. So if both sides are saying no, what would be the point of, that doesn't make any sense. Then the other side is that, we're attached to the Catholic Church and rah, 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 and we're the Vatican, alien, vampire, ghost, pedophile monsters. And, and actually the Catholic Church is one of the people overall that, there's always been a little rift because, and nothing against Catholics, but, in the deep, deep ancient church, if you tolerate anything besides the thing that's right, then you're tolerating bad. So a group that tolerates everything, we're obviously tolerating bad. So there's that.
Right.
But if you look at a person based on their enemies, one of the biggest enemies of Freemasonry, and a lot of people don't know this, was the mustache man in Germany. He hated Masons. He killed Masons on the spot before he even went after the Jewish people.
Wow.
Because you can't just go after your enemy. You know, you went after these guys and then went after them, and then it's a, you know, kind of like Rwanda, you know, then it's a fucking, you know, snowball effect. But so he went after us because we were tight knit, and you know, Hitler had a big hard on for esoteric secrets, and you know, and he, you know, the Raiders of the Lost Ark, even though it's a comedy, it wasn't really far off. He was running through Africa looking for the goblet of this and the staff of this, and he was all about that kind of shit. And so he would shoot us on the spot, and that's why in, you know, in World War II we got rid of the square and compass, and we adopted the forget-me-not flower as kind of like a quiet nod, you know, so that, you know, you wouldn't get killed in the street.
Wow.
So, you know, it's interesting. And besides your higher power, your family, and your country, you know, Freemasonry, it's just global. So there were, you know, people on both sides of any war, if they were Masons, they wouldn't not do what they're supposed to do for their country, but beyond that, they would give each other quarter. So there was civil war on both sides. They would kill the other guy, but they would hold him while he died and take his letter and say, I'm going to give this to your family. Actually, one instance, I'm going to butcher it, but there's one instance where North and South were fighting, and someone wanted to be initiated as a Mason and do their next degree. They did a ceasefire just to let this guy do his degree with Masons from both sides, and then they went back and started shooting at each other. You know, it's
which is beautiful, which is a beautiful, like you said, a sacred brotherhood, a caring for, an ability to say like, hey, and like you said, you know, beyond how you identify God and family and country, then there becomes this brotherhood that you've taken an oath and become a part of, and a sacred. And I feel like that's missing in so much tribal community. And so you see it happen in other ways where it's just shared trauma. You know, people will be like, oh my God, you were in a car accident too. Oh my gosh, you have panic attacks too. But all of that is just seeking for, I want my brothers and my sisters. I want somebody who's shared something. And that connectivity. And we don't do it proactively. We tend to do it as a reactive afterwards.
Right. And, you know, exactly. I love that. Exactly. You know, and we, you know, there's women fractions of it, of course, but, you know, for the Blue Lodge Masons, you know, we realize that there are three things that will create division in men before they even open their mouth. And that's religion, politics, and women. Yeah. And that's why the lodge has no women, no politics, and no religion. It's like,
right, because of its ability to quickly create division.
Right. Men act different when there's no women around, when, you know, when there's no politics around, there's no religion. It's just, okay, then do I even like you? Cool. Hey, what's up? You know, and, you know, like kill all that other stuff. And, you know, the first thing Masonry does is ask you to get back into the liberal arts and study logic and rhetoric and math and science and just be a free thinker. So it was and my grandfather was a 33 out of Philly. And, and that was in the 1920s. So God knows what he had to walk through. But, but I didn't care about that stuff until, you know, after 2001, I started getting sober and I got back into my old craft. And you know, I'm a member of the largest vampire clan in North America, the Sabertooth clan, and I'm a mystic weirdo and blah, 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 and AA and all this other stuff. So then I was like, oh, Masonry, you know, let's push it again, you know. And
Paxton, I love it, man. I'm just humbled. I'm honored to have you on here. And I think you are a shining example of true holistic creativity in everything that you're doing and in your essence. And like I said, brother, when I reached out, I was like, man, I'm probably not going to hear back. He's probably way too busy. There's stuff going on. Or he's going to come back and be like, sure, I'll come on. Here's my fee. And it's astronomical. And I'll have to go, man, I can't. And so for you to come back and us to have this time, I think it's beautiful. I'd love to have you on again if you're open to
Sure.
it. And I think we can have many kind of projects where we just do more deep dives into certain themes and topics. But this was an intro that I wanted to do. So I just want to thank you for being on here.
You know, real quick, because I'm going to get yelled at if I don't do it, because I never do it, because my mind doesn't work this way. But I have a Patreon app.
Yes, please.
It's a Patreon app. I don't know how it works. I've just started it, but it's under Mechanics of Recovery. If you can find it, that's cool. And it's like tiers of classes and who knows what. So just to throw it out there.
Well, and
my
tell me this.
plug.
No, it's great. It's so good, man. Because you're like me. I'm like, man, I don't want to do that stuff. Catch me on the street. I don't know. I want to go trickster on everybody. But then you recognize like how important it is, because really when you let that aside, there's people going, man, that was helpful. How can I get in touch? So what's your TikTok?
My TikTok is Paxton Dickerson Official, PAXTON DICKERSON Official. So that's my TikTok. And yeah, and on my TikTok, if you go to the profile page, you'll see the Patreon link to the app. And yeah, so basically TikTok, if they don't ban it, is probably my.
And then, but you'll have it on your Instagram too. And your Instagram is same thing.
My Instagram is Dickerson Paxton.
Beautiful, cool. And man, and then you have these kind of master classes, deep dive courses. Awesome, Mr. Dickerson.
Doc,
come on, thank you.
This has been my favorite podcast interaction. It really has, and I'm not just saying that because, yeah, I've tried to do a podcast and I don't do it right. But this has been this has been a vibe.
Awesome, man. Thank you again.